It looks like he was killed by that apple.
Snide remark. Today's category is TV detective. Parameters: must be from TV. Must be a detective. One who solves crimes.
Six cupcakes.
That's 4.
Is that me? That's you?
The best TV detective is Rust Cole of True Detective. He is the true detective. I know there are other 2 choices. And this guy is serious about crime. Not only does he just go around solving a few little random stupid crimes, his crime is so serious it takes an entire HBO season. That's how serious the crime is.
My choice is Sherlock Holmes, the world's greatest detective. It's true.
From which show?
Do I have to pick one?
Yeah.
Because it's Sherlock Holmes is all over.
One show.
Alright, fine. Sherlock Holmes from
the book.
From Sherlock.
You almost said Elementary.
I almost did say Elementary.
You.
Sherlock Holmes is the world's greatest detective. He can tell anything about anyone by looking at them.
Batman was the world's greatest detective.
What? Batman, Sherlock Holmes, and L.
Who?
L from Death Note.
L was a pretty good detective. He lost, though.
He died.
No, he didn't.
L dies.
And he faked his own death.
So was everyone.
But he did it well.
Okay, I think that the best TV detective by far is Sean. I think that the best TV detective by far is Sean Spencer from Psych. Not only is he funny and lovable, but he's a hell of a crime solver.
Nice.
Excellent. Well, when you look, as I said, at Sherlock Holmes, especially the Benedict Cumberbatch version, that's the one we're talking about, and Sean Spencer of Psych, they're both comedic. They are very quirky, and they're always just saying these little things, talking to their sidekicks, Gus or Watson. Rust has so much to say about so many things, says so much that makes other people literally question what they're living, how they're living their lives, that his partner, has quiet time so that Rust won't talk and upset all the other people around him because he's so serious and has so many important thoughts.
Literally the exact same thing happens with Sherlock Holmes.
Nope.
Yes.
No.
All the time.
Like what?
Like when he goes into his mind palace, whatever the heck he calls, and yells at anyone who talks and goes crazy, really into things. And he was so good at solving crimes that...
That has nothing to do with what I just said.
Yes, it does. You said that he got so into the case and he had so many things to say, he made
No, not into the case. He literally, when he sees someone talk... Sorry. The main plot of True Detective revolves around a cult, and he has so much to say on the topic of religion in the South in a very Christian settlement that people get upset when he starts talking in depth about philosophy and all these things that, literally Marty has to tell him to shut up.
You can't say that doesn't happen to Sherlock Holmes too. It does.
Not on the same. Not. It's played for comedy though. The things that Rust says are actually really poignant and actually make you think. Whereas Sherlock's just I'm British.
He does not. Sherlock Holmes was so good at solving crimes that every person in the city thought that he staged them all so he could solve them. He was so good, nobody believed that he could possibly be solving the crimes.
Exactly. He's just a perfect detective, and he can solve any crime without really any degree of difficulty. Whereas this crime that they're trying to figure out, they're trying to stop these children from being murdered, and they have to go so in depth that they have absolutely no clues to go by. Sherlock, there's always 9 convenient clues thrown around London, whereas True Detective, he has one witness and then the crime scenes, and that's all I have to work with.
Sherlock Holmes has to work with a witness and a crime scene, and he solves all the crimes because he's such a great detective.
No, and then Moriarty's I'm gonna leave him 9 little clues, and I love Sherlock so much, and that's my Moriarty.
But the whole...
I've kind of been out of this conversation. Why is Sean Spencer such a great detective? Well, not only is he lovable, as I said, and funny, he's a funny dude. If you've ever watched Psych, you know that it is about... Mainly what happens is, he solves this crime, and starts telling people... Shut up. He solves his crime, okay, and starts telling people in the police district that he's a psychic. So they start hiring him as a psychic detective. And it's really funny because he goes around and he solves all these cases, finding clues and convincing people that he is a psychic. That's not easy to do. That is not. I know I couldn't do that. Could you do that? Could Sherlock do that?
Yes. Sherlock could definitely do that. Sherlock Holmes doesn't even have to ask questions. He just looks at people and knows everything.
Yeah, exactly. Sherlock is so smart that Sean and Rust are characters. They're people. Sherlock is like a god.
But if we're doing best detective, doesn't that make him a great detective?
Best detective as in the best detective character.
And really quick, I don't know much
Detective.
I don't know much about their two characters, but is there a lot of background story on them? Like, do they develop background story?
Yeah, Rust has a huge background.
Does he?
Sherlock does not at all.
Yeah, I don't know much about Sherlock.
Like Rust, you get a lot of really cool stuff about how he's trying to hide, and the reason he cares so much about the case is that his daughter died years ago, and he hasn't been able to build a family or live a normal life since then. It says a lot about his character. You don't find that out until later. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff. His chemistry with Marty is... Although Sherlock and Watson and Sean and Gus each have great chemistry, Rust and Marty are so good. They work so well together, and they argue, and they call each other out on their shit, which is something that the other two don't really do. They would be like, oh, you should blah, 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 and they'll be like, because they're just so camaraderie, whereas this, they're literally saying, like, who the hell have you become? And something like that, so...
Well, it sounds much more like a drama.
It's probably the most hardcore dramatic show I've seen.
I haven't seen it.
Even if it is, if we're talking about the best detective, shouldn't the most important point be who's the best at solving crimes?
Sean Spencer.
Sherlock Holmes.
He walks into a crime scene and he automatically starts spotting things.
How many crimes has Sherlock solved on Sherlock?
Yeah, how many episodes are there of Sherlock?
Like
about
18?
9. There's 9 episodes of Sherlock, and there's about...
What, 6 seasons of Psych?
8 seasons of Psych.
And
each one's about 16 episodes.
So there you go.
So he solved that many crimes.
Quantity doesn't equal quality.
You just said shouldn't it be about how they solve the crimes?
I just said quality.
If you solve
He's
more
the best detective.
Rust solved 1 crime.
They knew Moriarty was the so-called greatest criminal, so they found him, arrested him, tricked him into wanting to catch Sherlock, and then let him go. And then Sherlock and his brother basically manipulated Moriarty into thinking that he was better, and then at the end, Sherlock made him kill himself, basically.
Spoilers.
Sherlock, does he have multiple, like, enemy? Like, or is throughout the whole show, it's only Moriarty?
Well, Moriarty is the overarching villain, but there's like an...
Okay, see, there's multiple of them in Psych. You're gonna have a lot of people that really, I don't know how to put it in words.
Like yin and yang.
Yeah, like yin and yang. There's someone like yin and yang, and they have a lot of people that he butts heads with, I guess you could say, in crime, yes.
So, I think it's important to look at Rust as these other detectives, although they each have their share of drama, are more or less comedic, and they don't really take everything that seriously. Sherlock does, but he's just so whatever that it's funny that he's not actually into it. Rust dedicates his entire life to the point when they
one case.
They solve the case, and then 10 years later, he says, no, that's not how it happened. I'm reopening this case. That wasn't him. Because he cares so much about his job that he's actually willing to go so far to make sure that he closes the case.
Sherlock Holmes is the greatest detective because Sherlock is so good at reading people, he can tell what anyone has done, who they are, their background, and even if he doesn't get them, even if they don't admit things, he tricks them into doing things so he can solve the crime.
That's what all detectives do.
Okay. He's so good at doing his job and doing it quickly that everybody thinks he's fake. He tricked the greatest criminal in the world. The crimes that most people deal with every day are just like done in a second, and when he doesn't have anything to do, he just floats around because he can't focus without trying to solve a crime, and it's so important to him that he needs to have crimes to solve. And it's true, that does happen. Yes, it does.
Okay, at the season 2 finale, when he goes and like wanders the world for a couple years.
And destroys the entire criminal organization of Moriarty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I watched that show. Sean Spencer, the man with true emotions, who's fast at solving a crime. Why are you doing that? Solves crimes fast and effectively, and he's a pretty funny dude. Seems like a great guy. So there you go. These other two, they seem hard to relate to. They seem hard to talk to. Sean Spencer, you can talk to him. He can get the job done, and that's what it's about. Getting the job done.
The winner is Sean Spencer of Psych.
Yep, a funny and effective guy.
Is that your You suck at final words.
No, I'm not. I'm great at final words.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Butthole.